Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jessie Brandt, Director of Programs and Operations for the Global Wellness Institute and Summit. Welcome to the Trends Shaping the Future of Travel Wellness Masterclass. Please introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. Before we get started, here are some quick logistics. You can select either speaker view or gallery view, depending on your preference. And please keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. I will mute everyone shortly to minimize background noise. We encourage you to turn on the cameras as it helps facilitate a more engaging discussion. This call is being recorded and we will share the recording along with the chat log and key takeaways in a follow-up email with everyone who has registered. Sharing, mute all. And it's my pleasure to introduce Nancy Davis, our Chief Creative Officer and Executive Director, who will moderate today's program. Good morning, Nancy, over to you.
Good morning, Jessie. Should I wait? Do you want to mute everybody and then I'll unmute myself? Okay, perfect. Welcome everyone to the Wellness Masterclass entitled Trends Shaping the Future of Travel with the wise and wonderful Beth McGroarty and Jane Kitchen. It's not possible in the time I've given myself today to adequately describe to you the impact the Future of Wellness Trends reports have had on the wellness industry. This year, that report had two superstars in the writing and editorial departments, Beth McGroarty and Jane Kitchen. Beth is the Vice President for Research and Forecasting and is an industry legend. For more than 2 decades, along with Susie Ellis, Chair and CEO of both the Global Wellness Summit and Global Wellness Institute, Beth has looked deep into the heart of health and wellness and brought to life a unique, powerful, and often wry perspective that has helped us all navigate this industry. Beth authors the twice-weekly Global Wellness News, as well as 2 monthly publications, the Global Wellness Brief, with news from our nonprofit institute, and the Trendium, a publication on the subject of the most recent trends under the umbrella of the Global Wellness Summit. At the beginning of this year, we welcomed Jane Kitchen to our team, happily, as media and trends analyst, working closely with Beth. Jane is an industry veteran, a consummate journalist, and a longtime trend spotter. Jane has contributed to our past trends reports, and this year assumed a larger role, writing trends, shepherding the report, and working closely with the authors. If you're familiar with these reports, you know well the depth and breadth of the trends. Our trends are written through a truly global lens, and that is only one of the ways in which we distinguish ourselves from the many other trends reports out there in the world. It's a pleasure for me to turn this over now to Beth and Jane, who will introduce our very special guests and then take us all on a journey today through the trends that are shaping the travel industry. Beth and Jane?
Yes, so we were going to introduce the authors as they came up, but we're so happy today to have, for 4 different trends, we're introducing Nicola from Belmond. I'm sorry, I don't have all the bios up in front of me because there was a little, Jane, why don't you quickly just introduce those?
Sure. So we have Nicola Herbert from Belmond, who heads up their well-being strategy for not just their trains, sorry, but their hotels and all sorts of other things. And we will introduce each person as we get to each trend. We have Lasse Eriksson, who is going to be talking to us about saunas. He is a sauna aficionado enthusiast and heads up Ferris Bad in Norway. And then we have Natasha Richardson, who's going to be talking to us about teen wellness. And Natasha has started some really exciting teen retreats for young girls called Rewire. We'll hear a little bit more about that. And then we have Thomas Morris from who is joining us from the UAE, who is heads up Finn Partners UAE office from Abu Dhabi, and he'll be outlining. Thomas is an expert as well as one of our trends authors, so he'll be outlining his trend, and we'll be having questions with each of these experts as we get to them. And then for our very first of our 5 trends, 5 of the 10 that we're going to outline, I should say that this is 5 of 10 trends, and the trends report, for those of you who don't know or who haven't already seen it, is quite an in-depth, more than 100 pages, quite in-depth about each trend. So I think you can see kind of here, this is an example of what these trends look like. They each include an introduction, a section on fueling the trend, aspects of the trend, and then a look into the future with statistics, interviews with people from around the world who are in our contact book. So it is quite in depth. It's more than we can possibly cover here. But yeah, so our first of the 5 trends that we're going to look at today with regards to the travel industry is analog travel. Or analog wellness, I should say. And Beth McGroarty is actually both our author and our expert on this. So Beth is going to tell us a little bit about this trend to get us started off, and then we'll get into a little Q&A.
Thanks so much, Jane. Yes, so the trend is not just digital detox, but analog travel. You know, the online and social media worlds, manipulations and marketing and hate campaigns seem to many people to have gone too far. And many more people are grasping how tech's evil algorithms create division between us, replace truth with lies, keep us addicted to increasingly awful content. So people are sick of the brain rotting and the polarization, both 2024 words of the year, and a life that they're spending in front of screens. So in our 2025 trend analog wellness, we argue this will be the tipping point year that more people get aggressive about logging off in life and in travel. So we all know digital detox vacations have been around for years. This is where your phone is locked up or properties have no or little Wi-Fi. It's so mainstream that it's a comic plot point in the new White Lotus series. When they put Patrick Schwarzenegger's phone in the detox box, he whines, well, what am I supposed to do now? Well, beyond digital detox, analog travel means more hotels and resorts are channeling the zeitgeist. They're offering retro, pre-digital, even pre-industrial tech and arts and crafts programming that fills that digital void. Analog experiences restore what the digital world has stolen from us, our deep focus, making and creating together, working with our hands, the tactile and the real. So we hear so much about biohacking. Instead, think book parties, blacksmithing, and bird watching. The 3 ways that analog travel is on the rise is more analog tech experiences in travel. We all know that younger generations are crazy for retro tech, old school cameras, vinyl listening bars, dumb phones, vintage typewriters, analog watches, and more travel destinations are experimenting with this. You know, tour companies are offering analog adventures. So FLTO's trips, you get your phone locked up, but you're giving retro tools like printed maps, old school alarm clocks. The cool digital detox nature cabins like UK's Unplugged are giving guests paper maps, Polaroid cameras, books, old school games, and Nokia dumb phones for emergencies. We all know that vinyl listening bars are the rage, and a wellness resort like Norway's Ferrisbad is making it an even more profound experience. Their deep listening sauna sessions have you steaming, then plunging in the icy ocean, and then settling in for a group audio meditation where you take in a complete vinyl album from a classic artist. And we'll be talking to Lasse in a minute. The second aspect of analog travel is more arts and crafts programming and retreats. So wellness resorts have always offered or dabbled in arts and crafts, but now their programming feels hipper and more relevant. More destinations are offering painting, ceramics, embroidery, calligraphy, knitting, writing, analog, you name it, workshops and retreats. Just one example, Royal Mansour in Marrakesh focuses on art as wellness therapy with gorgeous art studios where you learn embroidery, clay modeling, and calligraphy. There are just so many new dedicated analog hobby retreats, from Fair Isle with Marie's knitting holidays on a wild Scottish island to artful retreats in Crete where art therapy workshops whether painting or clay modeling, meets sound baths and yoga. The third aspect is that people are fascinated not just by retro, but positively pre-industrial pursuits in travel. The wellness resort as working farm estate is as much the future as some high-tech longevity resort. At Portugal's Viceroy at Umbria Algarve, artisans can teach you ancient grass weaving, ceramics, honey harvesting. You can even work as a shepherd for a day and drive the flocks home. The South African hotel Babylon Storen has opened up Soetmelskvai, which is a restored 17th century farm resort where you can dive into blacksmithing, milking cows, leatherworking, carpentry, wheat milling. You know, since the trend report was released at the end of January, there's been so many moves I've seen in analog travel. Tourism boards are jumping in. Japan's tourism organization has created a roadmap for travelers to find the country's ancient artisanal traditions. So you can hop between regions to try gold leaf making, ancient paper crafting, and 420-year-old coppersmith techniques. The New York Times covered the trend of sketching holidays as the new slow travel trend, rather than taking 1,000 throwaway iPhone photos. The status symbol now is paper books and reading. Condé Nast Traveler detailed the rise of social reading retreats, whether rest and read with ease in Wales with its bibliotherapists, or the always sold out ladies who lit. I think the analog travel trend will only rise. If you think the tech world is manipulative now, just wait for the next few years, where humanoid robots and AI agents will increasingly replace humans, where we're going to have more AI and virtual reality than reality. Analog travel will become part of a wider activist movement to fight the ramped up erasure of the human and the real. So Jane, I just, I know we don't have an expert for this trend, but
You are the expert, Beth.
do you have
That's the only
any
thing.
a question for me, or?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I love this trend, and I love the pre-industrial wellness, blacksmithing and sheep herding and things like that. I think it's fascinating. But you're talking about as well, I know the trend covers things like super social clubs and spaces where people can like craft or listen to music or read, as you're talking about. But I guess because we're talking about how this affects the travel industry, what would you say, Beth, can the travel industry learn from these things?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most powerful aspects of this trend is a grassroots movement of these sort of salons, club, nightly events, where people are ditching the phones and coming together for, anything from game playing clubs, reading parties, listening to music. So I think the travel world could learn a lot more from these analog salons and events because they're viral. I think I think that sometimes travel industry doesn't watch closely enough what's happening in wellness at the grassroots level. These clubs, these analog clubs and event nights are absolutely remaking nightlife. They're giving fitness studios and the pricey social wellness clubs competition as the third spaces. They're becoming real brands on the expansion march. For instance, like the crazily popular The Offline Club, which has 500,000 Instagram followers. You lock up your phone for social nights where people are reading, sketching, playing games, piano playing in places like ancient churches. I mean, they started in the Netherlands and now they're all over the world, from LA to Sydney. They've even launched offline getaways. So they're getting into wellness travel in the Netherlands and France. I mean, there are just so many great examples. There's Reading Rhythms, which calls itself not a book club, but a reading party. And it's people gathering for an hour of reading set to live music in beautiful places. They're expanding across the US. Just in general, I think that I've been thinking a lot about how nightlife is being rewritten. So people and young generations are giving up booze. People on weight loss drugs are not focused on food. Evenings and travel were all about dining and drinking. But people are seeking and need a new nightlife. It's why these social analog clubs have such passionate followings, and why what they're calling noctotourism, or the rise in night experiences and wellness experiences in travel, whether it's stargazing or night kayaking, are such a hot travel trend. I mean, it's a lot of hours if you're not eating and drinking all night. So I think it's really interesting.
I absolutely agree, and I could talk to you for the full hour about this if we had time, but I am conscious of
I think we should move to the
moving
next
on.
trend.
And I think that actually transitions really well into our next trend, which I'm going to outline, which is sauna reimagined. Because this is one of the things that one of the reasons that there has been this absolute explosion in sauna, what we're calling a global renaissance of an ancient tradition, is because this is in part a new way to socialize that doesn't involve booze necessarily, a new kind of nightlife or morning life or whatever it might be. And so while the sauna has been around for thousands of years, it's kind of having this renaissance from, we've got urban saunas in New York or Chicago. We've got rustic waterfront saunas in Oslo, like we just saw the picture of, or Brighton in the UK, and then saunas with these kind of immersive art installations in Tokyo. So there's kind of this reinvention of this age-old tradition, and there's this increasingly kind of younger, dare we say, hipper crowd that's taking notice. So a really big part of this sauna renaissance is this rise in kind of entertainment in saunas, or saunatainment, as we might call it. Things like the Aufguss movement, which once used to be the domain of European countries, and it's now gaining momentum worldwide, thanks in part to our friend Lasse, who we'll talk to in a minute. We've got new countries like Japan and England, and now the US is holding its first ever Aufguss competition this June in New York. We've also got sauna design getting more exciting. Like, there are some really beautiful, interesting, gorgeous, dare we say, Instagrammable saunas out there. And then a lot of these standalone saunas are accessible to the public with low entry fees. So in the UK, for instance, we've got these like simple rustic saunas made in like horse boxes that have been refitted that are popping up on beachfronts. So you've got this really simple contrast therapy where you've got the ocean, which is cold all year long, I can attest to here in the UK. And then the warmth of the sauna. And sometimes you can just pay 10 pounds and go in the sauna to warm up after your ocean swim. But even like the box style saunas that we see in spas and hotels, are becoming more experiential. So you've got either maybe a panoramic glass wall with a view that you could sit in the sauna and look at a mountain range, or there's even immersive digital art options that are popping up that can kind of transport people to beachfronts or mountaintops. And then we've got these event-sized saunas that are fit dozens or hundreds of people emerging around the world. And as I was saying earlier, it's these younger consumers kind of craving these real-life connections beyond bars and clubs that are drawn to these social saunas. And by their very nature, because they're so hot, saunas are natural phone-free zones. So we're seeing these social saunas. Sometimes they have DJs, or they have drag queens, or they have concerts, and these sauna festivals that have heat and cold and art and music and food and drink and socializing. Those are all gaining momentum. We had a pop-up sauna here in London in King's Cross that had totally sold out. It had silent sauna sessions, comedy with sauna, and then even a special Man Day, which was held on Blue Monday, which, if you know, is that Monday in January that's supposed to be the dreariest day of the year. That was all in support of men's mental health. So anyway, that is all to say, we used to think of saunas as this kind of sad, dark, lonely box that somebody put in a basement that smelled like sweat. And while they might still smell like sweat, today they're these lively social, cultural hubs. And sometimes they have fantastic views, incredible locations, and consumers can't get enough. So what does that mean for the travel industry? And so to help us understand more, I want to bring on our friend Lasse Eriksson. If you could unmute Lasse. Lasse is the development manager at Farrisbad in Norway, which was just awarded the Spa of the Year in Europe. He is also head of, I'm just going to say, Norway's National Sauna Association, so as to not mispronounce it. A board member of the International Sauna Association, and the VP of the Aufguss WM group, which is the group that oversees the sauna Aufguss competitions around the world. So he is your guy for all things sauna, and we're so excited to have you here, Lasse. And you've got your awesome sauna hat. That's fantastic.
Ready.
Which I was just reading about how that's a big fashion accessory these days. Tell us, okay, a couple things. How big is the sauna boom for travel? And then in a nutshell, really briefly, what would you say is driving it? And do you see some kind of new sauna tourism emerging out of all this?
First of all, thank you, and it's beautiful to see how sauna globally now awakens. Not only sauna, because sauna is a Finnish thing, but sweat bathing. I would rather say that word, because each culture and nations around the world, they have their own sweat bathing history, and to cherish that one is equally very, very important, rather than trying to just copy a Finnish one. So yes, we do see a sauna tourism heating up worldwide. It's kind of going from a niche wellness thing, which is changing into a must-have travel experience. I would say it's equally important as having a gym within your facility. When travelers are coming around, they expect it to be some kind of sauna, accessible. It doesn't mean to have to be in the facility, but actually nearby in the city or something around that they actually do. Because like you said, the younger generation, there was a study in, what was it, booking.com, I think it was, where they had about, they said Gen Z, half of the Gen Z population in Japan valued sauna and onsen very much in their use. And in Japan, they have about 17 million sauna goers. So the younger generation is coming and they're working on this, and they're also travelers who are going around, so they expect this to be present in their own thing. We do see some things driving this one. I would say 5 points to try to be short here, to go.
I was going to say brief. 5
One
points.
thing, it's wellness. We do it as a first. The travel market and the mindset of people traveling in the future, they expect to be wellness. They're not hospitality travelers. They are wellness travelers. Everyone are wellness travelers. And they expect it to just be that. So the hotels with gyms, they also have a sauna. That's very easy to say. Wherever they travel, it should be a sauna nearby. Secondly, social. The social aspect of sauna is such a powerful tool, and we see it like you mentioned in the beginning here. The social things are happening. These trendy sauna clubs, they are taking over all the old classic nightclubs, the pubs. Recently in BBC and all the national media in Britain, British media was showing that the sauna is taking over the pubs. And this is much because of the social aspect of it. People talk together. When you go on a bus or on a tram, you don't talk to the person sitting next to you. But when you go to a sauna and undress, you suddenly sit there and talk to people. Something is happening within this room, which is very difficult to explain. And this is the social hubs that people can get to know people they normally shouldn't do. So that's happening both in London and Toronto, New York, Berlin, and all these places around the world. These major social spaces are going the way. Number 3, I would say, is the nature traveler and the adventure traveler, who is exploding at the moment. I read a piece that the adventure traveler are kind of annually increasing with 19%, up to a 2 billion industry in 2032. So because the adventure, people want to experience nature. We talked about analog wellness. They want to travel, they want to experience. They go kayaking, they go swimming, they go hiking, they go all these natural connections. And here comes sauna. The sauna is a connection to nature. So to recuperate after hiking or kayaking, they come into that one. And so we see that a lot in the Nordics. We have kind of these back roads, which is a kind of American travel agency thing. They also come around and they bicycle around, and then they do sauna afterwards. It's in their natural habitat that people do that. 4, I would say.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second just to say we've only got about a minute left.
Yes.
So can you give me 4 and 5 really quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next trend. Sorry.
Sauna pilgrimage. That's one. People are pilgrimage to special sauna spots around the world. They do digital sauna maps. The Norwegian Sauna Association, we have sauna maps for pilgrimage, where people can travel to all the saunas around the world. And last but not least, the media and the science for hot and cold are thriving this way in the way and goes into the future. So yes, that's what kind of pushing it at the moment.
Okay, awesome. And thank you so much. And I'm sorry to, and I wanted a chance for Beth to ask you a question too, but I think just in the interest of time and making sure we get to everything, we're going to have to move on to the next trend, which is teen wellness that Beth is going to tell us a little bit about.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so teen wellness and travel. So, you know, we've been bombarded for so long with all the stats about the teen mental health crisis. We've almost become numb to them. But teens only face rising levels of anxiety, depression, and suicidality. And the crisis is global. In China, 1 in 5 teens suffer from mental health disorders, and 100,000 die by suicide every year. In the US, more than 1 in 5 teens suffered at least one major depressive disorder in 2024. A survey last week found that 40% of teens spend at least 6 hours a day online. That's basically a school day. So the teen mental crisis isn't surprising. They're struggling with climate and financial crises, political extremism, mass shootings, and the ever-toxic pressures of social media. This crisis is painfully, I mean, another zeitgeist in the media, painfully and profoundly represented in the new series Adolescence, about the vulnerability and silent rage of an always online teen boy and the violence that results from his getting sucked into the manosphere. Teens are the most emotionally challenged demographic, yet historically wellness destinations have treated them as a side note or in sort of silly or safe ways, you know, sparkly treatments, acne facials. In wellness travel, there's been a surge in kids programming, kids clubs for little kids, and of course for adults. But guess who's always missing? Teens. Maybe because they're so complex and addressing their challenges requires expertise, time, and compassion. But this trend is about how in travel, we're just starting to see retreats and programming that's tackling teen anxiety, depression, and social media addiction. There's some good examples. Zulal Wellness Resort in Qatar has created retreats and programming that specifically focus on helping teens cultivate emotional intelligence. Resurface surf therapy retreats in the UK, Morocco, Norway, from the psychologist Josh Dixon, are based on the psychological benefits that come when you combine the mindfulness of surfing with trauma therapy and connection. The place retreats in Bali are family-based, off-grid 4-week retreats founded by psychotherapist Jean-Claude Chalmet, with a team of psychiatrists, therapists, doctors, and practitioners helping teens unplug, make sense of the info they're bombarded with, get heard, while using neuroscience-based strategies to help regulate their emotions. Hotel brands like Rosewood, One Hotels, and Carillon Miami are reportedly working on new teen-focused initiatives. Retreats seem like a great place for teens to work on mental well-being as they're out of their peer pressure group and more likely to open up. And in a second, I'm going to talk about a shining example, with Natasha about Rewire retreats for teen girls in the UK. One comment first, though, before I turn to Natasha. When this trend came out, the Financial Times quickly ran a story on it called The Tyranny of Teenage Wellness. It asked whether the wellness industry was responding or contributing to the pressures that teens face by training people ever earlier to become wellness consumers. The author certainly was responding to teens and tweens being bombarded by beauty products, anti-aging skincare products, online by influencers and on TikTok, making tweens and teens the beauty industry's biggest new consumer. It's an era where Gen Alpha spent $63 million on Drunk Elephant products and $57 million on Glow Recipe products last year. This teen wellness bashing article doesn't make a distinction between the hawking of beauty and wellness products to teens and attempts to provide more meaningful solutions for their mental wellness, kind of throwing the teen out with the bathwater. But it's important for the wellness industry to note, consumerist pushes to sell to teens and kids gets called out. Are you looking for a cash cow, or are you sincerely addressing a problem? But with that, I turn to Natasha Richardson, whose retreats are doing the latter. Natasha is a transformational life engineer, a leadership coach, and the founder of the TLC method, as well as Rewire, retreats for teen girls. So Natasha, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here.
Yeah.
With so many people.
So tell us, briefly, what are Rewire Treats? What do they do? What skills are you teaching teen girls? Which practices and experiences do you focus on?
Sure. Yeah. So Rewire ultimately are safe spaces for teenage girls to come and unplug from society, from screens, and rewire into a reality that they choose, basically. So, the reason for creating these spaces, and I call them spaces rather than retreats, even though I do market them as retreats, just because it's a friendlier term. Retreats can have connotations to them where their mum goes on retreat can sometimes be inspirational for them, but sometimes can also put them off. So, Rewire ultimately teaches these girls life skills that they don't get taught at school or at home. And from my experience and having worked with the older generations, lots of boomers, lots of millennials, I was able to really understand what they weren't getting at home from kind of parents feeling frustrated or confused about how to navigate certain conversations with their teens and actually kind of avoiding them. And then also within schools as well, because I had a history of working within schools with other companies and also going to teach yoga and helping, like you actually touched on, whether it's a cash cow or whether you're actually helping to solve the problem, right? Is it a tick on Ofsted, or are you actually trying to help improve teens' mental, emotional, physical health? So what we try and do is we try and bring everything that they're lacking, which is, you've touched on emotional intelligence. They're really lacking the ability to critically think. They're really lacking connection with themselves. They're in an exploratory kind of period of their life. Adolescence has always been a very confusing, conflicting time. It's kind of a paradox of many sensations and many feelings and thoughts. And I think what's happening now is social media is exacerbating that. It's not actually that it's kind of the root cause. It's somewhere where they can escape into and ultimately spend more time there than the reality that is our world, our natural world. And so what Rewire addresses is these emotional, feeling-based, and also kind of how it expresses through the physicality of what they're going through and what they're journeying through right now. And a big thing that we do is, I could list a multitude of things, but primarily what we teach them, if I looked at like the meta umbrella for all of the offerings that we teach, is how to honor your biology and how to connect deeper with yourself and the natural world, which are two of the same things, and actually teach them that, which they don't get taught. And so through honoring your biology, whether that's like a cookery masterclass that's gone from farm to table, that's teaching you how to eat for your hormones, whether that's a mindfulness or meditation session that allows them to kind of calm their anxiety, create peace within their mind, whether it's connection through eye gazing or other amazing activities that we do, whether it's a rite of passage, which we always do on every Rewire, which is teaching them and actually giving them ceremony, giving them these old ancient ritual spaces where they can create meaning for maybe something that they've once lost, which for girls, which I do Rewire Treats for girls, not boys, but I'd love to, is that a lot of them, their menarche, their first bleed, has been shrouded in shame. And, some of them have even forgotten what their first experience, and, it's blocking because it was so traumatic for them, whether that happened in PE. So actually giving them a ritual space to understand their menstrual cycle, understand the seasons of menstruality, to create a really beautiful ceremony where maybe they're even kind of giving, let's say, like fake wine back to the earth as your first bleed. These are all so powerful, and it completely transforms these girls' lives. And I know that sounds really obtuse and really big, but I have letters that I want to share with you. The girls don't have these experiences and they're craving them. And I know that the boys are as well. Like, look at Adolescence, it's just come out on Netflix. I'm not a man, so it's not my duty to stand up and talk to boys, but I'd love to. So, I think
I'm just going to interrupt you real quick just because we're running short on time.
Cool. Go.
I just want to ask you, like, in the minute we have remaining,
Yeah.
what can hotels or destinations or resorts, like what can they do to get involved with teen wellness very briefly?
Sure, run rewrite programs within them. But ultimately, I think they need to create really safe digital free spaces that allow teenagers to connect with each other. So get all of the teens from all of the families that are on extended long stay vacations, get them on a rewire program where they can come for half a day or however many hours, you know, sign up before so that they've got those siloed in communities where they can connect with one another through eyes, through human connection, and get taught something that's really valuable for them, that's going to last for the rest of their life, so that they don't have to go into therapy. Like, let's be preventative and teach them these emotional. That's what we need to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And
No
again,
worries.
I could
So amazing. Yeah.
listen for
Thank you.
ages and talk to you for ages. And I think this is such an important topic. And I'm so glad that you're doing this. And I'm sure if anybody wants to contact Natasha, we can put you in touch. But we do have to move on to our next trend, which is Wellness on the Line, which is looking at how both cruise and rail journeys are kind of navigating more towards wellness travel. And this is fueled by a desire for kind of slower, more relaxed travel. Increasingly, both cruises and rails are also exploring itineraries with holistic wellness programs. So whether that's wellness-focused excursions or wellness offerings on board. That's everything from dedicated Dior spa carriages on Belmond's luxury trains, which we'll talk to Nicola about maybe a little bit, to a boom in wellness retreats at sea. Sometimes with a celebrity twist, but wellness is playing a more important role in kind of differentiating these offerings in a crowded marketplace. So we've got things like wellness brands like Como Hotels is jumping into the cruise market, and they have a journey to the Arctic that's combining adventure excursions with the Como Shambhala wellness treatments and food. And then we've got established cruise lines partnering with celebrities, Gwyneth Paltrow, Deepak Chopra, people who are helping them navigate their wellness experiences. Meanwhile, rail journeys are kind of celebrating their natural mindful qualities, right? So trains are a slow and eco-friendly way to travel, and commuter trains, it's everything from commuter trains highlighting the opportunity for things like knitting or mindfulness during a mental health awareness week, or a new generation of train travelers discovering the thermal towns in Europe that are all connected by rail, that were originally connected by rail, and visiting those bathhouses and grand hotels and promenades that were the 19th century wellness journeys. And then these wellness-focused excursions for both trains and cruises are offering guests the opportunity to explore local wellness traditions. That could be wild swimming in Scandinavia or England, or gathering medicinal plants with a Mayan shaman in Mexico, or soaking in onsens in Japan. And as things like astrotourism and silent tourism and calmcations are growing in popularity, then things like trains and ships, which can like very easily transport guests far away from light and from noise pollution, will be able to capitalize on these trends in a sort of wellness sense. So anyway, with both cruises and trains offering travel where the journey can kind of be the destination, and we're slowing down as maybe exactly the sort of well-being that we need right now, we're expecting that we'll see more wellness on both cruise lines and rail lines moving forward. So what does this mean for the travel industry? We're going to focus a little bit more on trains because we have the lovely Nicola Herbert here with us, who is the Global Director of Wellness and Guest Experience at Belmond. Sorry, that's your official title. So you're overseeing the global strategy for guest experience for the Belmond's hotels, trains, river cruises, and safari camps even, but with a specific focus on well-being strategy. So I guess in a nutshell, like, why do you think trains and wellness are a particularly good mix?
Hi everyone, I'm currently at Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro. It's very beautiful and sunny here. Real pleasure to join you. I think, and I'll try and keep it to a nutshell. For us, and I can talk mainly obviously about Belmond and the experience of going on a train with Belmond. Our guests report that it's like stepping into a cocooning bubble. It's like moving away from reality, right? So there's this natural tendency to disconnect, and I think this has come up in all of the speakers so far, how important that is. For us as well, what we see is a real joy on embarkation. It's it's a moment that people have been long anticipating, right? This is often for a celebration. It could have been booked years in advance. So our guests arrive in a place where they are ready to focus on themselves and on a real enjoyment of that moment in their lives. So I think that mindset is really positive. They also are coming often not having traveled on a luxury train before, right? So this is a novelty. This is something they've never done. And I think all of this puts them in the right place to really embrace the journey. As you said, with trains, with cruises, it's not just about the destination, it's about the journey itself. So trains have a natural slow pace, as we all know. They lull the body and the mind as you go along. And our ones in particular go through incredible natural landscapes, right? So if you take the Venice Simplon Orient Express, you could go to sleep as the snow is falling in the mountains and you wake up and the sun has risen and there's a stunning lake in front of you. So I think this, as you see this beautiful display of nature, you know, she puts on her best show in many of our locations as we travel through them. You have this real awareness of your role, your place in a much broader story, which I think is a really powerful reason why wellness and trains just goes together.
Great.
And can you tell us a little bit about, I mean, Belmont's doing so many interesting things, well-being, wellness, trains, you know, that you're doing on train, off carriage, the excursions, the cultural experiences, you know, just whether you want to talk about your partnership with Wildsmith, just some of the, like, paint a little bit of a picture about Belmont's, you know, experiments with trains, wellness, and etc.
Sure. So I think the most obvious wellness touch point is our spas. You know, spa on a train, quite rare. Jane touched on it before. We're very fortunate. Belmont is a travel company that's owned by Louis Vuitton, Moët Hennessy, LVMH. So we have many sister brands who are experts in wellness. So we do have Dior spas on our Royal Scotsman train, which runs in Scotland, and on the Eastern and Oriental train in Malaysia. But we don't just partner with LVMH brands. We partner with brands that we feel we have shared values with that excite us. And I'll talk to you more about one in particular, Wildsmith, that one of our latest partnerships. I think when you think about the onboard experience, we are focusing obviously on the spa, but that's just a moment of our wellness. We're looking at the food and beverage, what's available there. We're really looking at conscious consumption, you know, the non-alcoholic, the low ABV drinks that we have put into place are even more popular than we anticipated that they would be. We have also, when you were talking about analog travel, you know, creative pursuits for us in this amazingly curated aesthetic space. We want people to use their creativity to help them to achieve wellness, right? So you could find that there's a sketching book gifted to you at Turndown in your cabin. It could be that you wander through the public carriages and you come across a chessboard. It's this kind of moment where you have permission to just reconnect with relaxation. So I think they're the key moments on board. There's also a huge element of social connection, which I won't go into too much, but you know, you're traveling either with your companion or with your fellow passengers and you're discovering a destination. That's a real bonding experience, right? Lots of people really create friendships for life on these journeys. I think if we go to offboard, so many things that you can do. If we focus on the Eastern and Oriental Express again, so our train in Malaysia, it goes to, on some of the routes, it goes to the Taman Negara National Park, which is, I think, the oldest tropical rainforest in the world. A place of awe-inspiring beauty, naturally anyway. But you could do creative, more sedentary pursuits, like you can learn about the tiger conservation in the park. You can do a nature photography workshop, but we've also put in a lot more active pursuits. So you can take a e-bike and you can go and explore the ancient caves. You can do yoga in the absolute heart of the jungle. You can, my personal favorite, you can do a sound bath on the river. So, you know, there is a sound bath where you're lying on a camp bed with the river flowing, the shallow river flowing underneath you. So that's kind of some of the things that we are doing. The partnership that we're launching a new train in June in the UK, which will travel to Wales, the Lake District and Cornwall, which are three of the most stunningly beautiful areas of the UK. We've partnered with a UK-based brand called Wildsmith. because we were really excited by their shared values with us and what they're doing. So they will curate our spa experience on the train, and they have created treatments which focus on lots of different bodywork modalities, but they also have looked into the principles of circadian rhythms. So you will have a different treatment depending on the time of day, you know, morning, afternoon, night. And then off board, they're helping us with some circadian movement sessions that you'll be able to do. You touched on wild swimming, you know, on certain routes, you'll be able to go wild swimming. You'll be happy to hear, Lessa, you can have a sauna lakeside during your excursions. So really what we're looking to do is make sure that there's that choice there. And with the Botanic Explorer, which is the new train, making sure that everyone who leaves our train feels like they were deeply cared for and re-energized by their journey.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited for that. And you're right. It's going to be stunning countryside, and it's such a perfect partnership. And I love what you're doing with the off carriage wellness as well. And I really look forward to hearing more, Nicola. But unfortunately, we do have to move on to our final trend, which is on the Middle East wellness ambitions. And we've got Thomas Morris with us, who I think Beth is going to introduce.
So for the Middle East wellness travel ambitions, I want to introduce Thomas Morris. He's the author of the trend this year, the leader of FIM Partners UAE office, and he's the co-leader of FIM Partners Global Intelligence Team in EMEA. So Thomas, I know it's tough to summarize the ambitions of travel in the Middle East, but try to summarize, you know, this trend for us.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, trying to do that in 4 minutes or so is quite a challenge, but I'll give it a go. I think when you and the team first came to me and asked me to write this trend, what I wanted to do was really shatter some expectations, because I think that when people think of the Middle East, they don't think of wellness. They think of towering skyscrapers, expansive malls. But today, the region is really kind of reshaping its image, not just as kind of a hub of luxury, but really truly a global destination for holistic wellness travel. So I wanted within this trend piece to try and provide some of the context for why this is happening, and then also some of the kind of key things we expect to see over the coming years. And I think obviously one of the key drivers is that whether it's from kind of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar to Oman, governments are really making wellness a national priority. They're putting them at the heart of their kind of 10-year national visions. And that's not only to improve national population's health, which is an issue in some countries in the Middle East, but also to really kind of fuel tourism and economic development. Saudi Arabia is an astonishing case. We're looking at around 66% growth annually in wellness tourism, which is huge. And we're seeing kind of mega projects come to the market, whether that be Neom, Amala. These are kind of immersive wellness destinations, and they really blend kind of the beauty of the desert, sustainability, and then cultural authenticity. What is a really kind of interesting development, specifically in the Gulf, is the emergence of kind of integrative wellness models. So destinations that blend traditional healing wisdom with advanced medical science. So the idea that a wellness resort can be a place of serious preventative healthcare. The UAE, in terms of the Middle East, is really kind of at the forefront of that. So there are certain projects coming to fruition. We expect Tula Clinical Wellness Resort to go live this year, and this is that will be in Dubai. It will be a luxury resort, so you can expect kind of beautiful rooms, great hospitality, but people that go to stay there will also get a kind of comprehensive health diagnostic, doctors on site. You may start the day with kind of Ayurvedic treatments and end the day with high tech, kind of genome testing. So it's that blend of kind of cultural authenticity with emerging tech, and in this space, kind of the Middle East is really trying to lead. And it's not just about attracting international visitors. That's one key component, but it's also about meeting the demand for intra-regional travel. So as we see a lot of kind of younger people in the Gulf, and these are very kind of young demographics, populations, especially in countries like Saudi Arabia, as they embrace healthy living, conscious travel, weekend wellness retreats to neighboring countries are really booming. So we're seeing kind of an increase in women's group retreats, halal-friendly wellness resorts, and dry kind of alcohol-free luxury stays, which are really key drivers of travel decisions when it comes to intra-regional. And then it's not just about relaxation. So sports are central to the region's wellness ambitions. So we have things like Aspire Academy in Doha, Saudi Arabia's Sports Boulevard in Riyadh. Sports infrastructure is designed not only to host global events, but also to improve tourism and community health. So, you know, when you look at especially the UAE and Saudi, we have kind of Formula One, we have massive boxing events, tennis, international golf tournaments. These all bring tourists in, but they also leave behind kind of lasting health and wellness legacies. The final thing I'll say on the trend is just to give you a kind of idea of the scale of development that's happening in the region. We're currently looking at about 600 hotel projects in the pipeline, 140,000 plus rooms, and wellness travel in the region is poised to surpass, I think, 1 trillion globally this year. So the Middle East is no longer just a stopover or a luxury playground. It's really driving some major trends in terms of wellness travel.
Thank you so much. I mean, there's so much every week I see a new resort, a new concept in the news. But I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but I mean, when you just think about it, like, what do you think first of all, I think for many people, the idea of the Middle East as a wellness destination would have been so surprising just 5 years ago. But you're talking about, 600 properties in the pipeline, Amala with 30 world-class wellness resort destinations in one place. That's unprecedented. 8 are opening this year. What do you see the wellness travel space looking like in, say, 5 or 10 years in the GCC?
Yeah, great question, Beth. I think you mentioned Amala. What we're definitely seeing is that transformation towards experiences that both are kind of culturally rooted and tech forward. And I think that will be kind of core to a lot of the offerings that we see in the next kind of 5 or 10 years. So you can still get the kind of Arabic hammam ritual, but that will be followed by a kind of biohacking treatment or something like that. And I think those two blended together will be critical. And I also think that we'll see a kind of distinct flavor to wellness in the Middle East. I guess until this moment, when we think of traditionally some of the kind of spas, they've really lent on kind of European or US thinking, products, brands. What we're seeing is a lot of the resorts and hotels moving away from that and investing in kind of local products that are focused on kind of local beauty and rather than kind of Western norms. So I feel like the flavor of wellness here will be significantly different in the next 5 or 10 years. And we'll see things like halal certified wellness resorts being quite common. So I think there are a number of trends there that are exciting to watch out for.
Yeah, I think about 8 years ago, we wrote a trend on Islamic wellness, the only tradition I think the world doesn't understand, doesn't know, and they certainly will learn more about it. And also just wanted to make one last comment, which is, as sober, curious retreats and tourism rises, the sort of naturally non-alcoholic Middle East becomes an interesting proposition for people. I mean, I'm not sure how it will be promoted or represented, but I mean, this is a natural environment that's either low or no alcohol. So it certainly fits with broader desires. Anyway, thank you so much, Thomas. And I know we
You're
only have,
welcome.
I guess, a couple of minutes left. So
Yeah, a couple minutes. And I think for our last 2 minutes, I think I want to, first of all, thank all of our panelists and our
Yes.
special guests. And honestly, I could have talked to each and every one of you for a full hour, but I want to just turn it back to Nancy Davis for the last couple minutes.
Thank you so much. And yes, I mean, in a minute, I'm going to ask everybody to unmute and give rousing applause to our extraordinary guests. But I'm going to guess Heidi Moon for a minute to just mention again the offer that we are doing for the next 24 hours for the Trends Report. Heidi, if you'd unmute and just mention that.
Yes, I also put it in the chat. We are offering $20 off exclusively for anyone that signed up or attended the webinar on this in-depth Trends Report. So you saw how detailed it was when we flashed those few pages. A lot of these examples that we talked about, there's hyperlinks to just tons of examples for each trend. And the code is webinar 20. And the link will also be in your follow-up email.
Heidi,
So-
thank you. And I know a couple of people have put in the chat that they've tried it and there was an issue with the link. So
That has been fixed. It has been fixed. I just tried it and it works again.
Okay, so anyway, if you have a problem, you'll let us know. And in the follow-up, we will send all of this information. So you'll have it well within the time period to order your Trends Report if you haven't already. And I know Susie said just, talk about the Trends Report, but it would just not be a call of ours without Susie getting the last word on this.
Thank you, Nancy. And yes, Trends has been something I've loved and worked with Beth for so long, and so happy to be working with Jane now. I thought this was fantastic. I learned so much. Thank you for putting this together and to all of the guests. And it's so nice to see Lasse again after many, many years when he introduced me to Sanne Aufguth in Austria. So
Yes,
thank you, everyone.
And of course, we've got a summit coming up in the UAE in November. We seem to be on trend, which is no surprise. Thank you all. Please unmute and let's give everybody a round of applause.
Yay.
Bravo. Well done, everyone.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank
you.
Well done, everyone.
Thank
Bravo.
you.
Bravo. Thank you.
Well done, well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
There will be a follow-up email with the recording and the chat and important information that was mentioned. That
You'll
will
get
go
that today.
today. So thank you everyone for
Thank
joining.
you.
Everyone.
Thank
Thank
you. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.